Hello, my LinkedIn friends. How are you? This is a Friday afternoon. I hope you had a wonderful week, and there's a long weekend coming. So hopefully you have some plan already for your long weekend, and watch the beautiful weather and take some rest during the long weekend. So I will see how many people online. Right now we have 10 people. All right, so for people online, can you just put your name and where you're from? So I hope this session will be more like a interactive session rather than I just gave some talk, right? Okay, so for today's topic, what we want to talk about is the networking skills. All right, so it sounds like a big topic, and actually it's a very interesting and important topic. And when I say networking skills, it's not a classic computer network. Really, it's a human network, right? So the typical, how do you interact with others and build a relationship, and also especially how do you deal with the strangers and the people you never know before. So it's about the networking skills. All right, so I can see quite many people already online. So Arya and Sandeepa from Toronto and Janti from Toronto. How are you? All right, so let's back to the networking skills. Number one is, I think why we need to come up with this topic, networking skills. I never claim myself as an expert in anything, including the network. I pretty much consider myself as a learner for the things I'm interested in. And for networking is part of things I care a lot. The part of a reason because I'm organizing a lot of, as you know, the events, the conference. So what I can see is I kind of observed a lot of styles, the ways people are doing the networking, right? For myself, because it doesn't matter it's a personal reason, business reason, or community reason, I also need to do a lot of networking, relationship building with many people. And most of them probably I never met before. Or when we know each other online, but probably the first time we meet in person. So that's kind of things why we need the networking. And very interesting is I see so many, I won't call it problems, but it's just the way people network. So I want to talk a little bit about that one. So maybe you can also list some common things you see during the networking session. But before we jump to that, why network is so important? Networking session is so important. There's an old saying about the success is not about what you do or what you know, right? So some people saying the success is really about who you know, or sometimes even the people you know, they know, right? So it's kind of like your personal or business network play a very important role in your success. Doesn't matter it's a personal success or business success. So come to the reasons we need to do network. The number one probably for your personal development. This really depends on who you are, right? So if you are the student, just newly graduate from school, probably you are thinking about finding a job, or find a co-op position. So the network, there's so many like a school network, a job fair, all those things will help you to expand your kind of a people to get know more people, right? So from there, probably you can potentially find some job opportunity. And for the professionals or people like in the industry, a lot of times when they do the networking, they kind of try to make friends in their community or in their industry or in their kind of circle, right? So part of the reason is they can learn from each other. The other part is they probably can contribute to this community. So all those things are related to personal development. Second reason for that one probably is the business development. And also it depends on what kind of business you are in. So for example, if you are in the sales marketing, definitely networking is one of the major things you need, right? So you need to sell your product, sell your service, or sell your whatever things you want to do. So you need to let the message out. So that's the business development. And sometimes it's also may not be just purely for money, but also maybe for the charity, for your community, for the things you believe, right? So you still need to kind of get to know more people and kind of get your message out to the community. So that's for pretty much for the business reasons. But I would argue actually there are the third reason for that. The third reason, nothing related to your personal development or business development, really is about your personal kind of a happiness. I would say because we are human, right? So human is we are the social. We need a social, right? We need to engage with some people, right? So we need to be part of something, or the meaningful things. So that's also the reason you want to connect with people. May not be have any gains. It's just for your personal like a happiness, and you feel good about yourself, or feel good about you are in something, right? So that's kind of a happiness. Is through the networking can also boost your happiness. So those are the three reasons I can think about why you need a networking. So you probably have your own reasons. So feel free to put to the comment field. So we now have 27 people. So yeah, so we talk about networking. I just mentioned some reasons why you need a networking. So personal development, professional development, business development, or just for your happiness. Okay, well-being. All right, so that's for the networking, why we need that. Then, okay, since that's so critical, and networking, of course, is considered as one of the major soft skills you need if we come into the career development side. But what are some common problems normally you see within the network? So as an event organizer, I observed so many things. So I'd like to share with you a couple of examples. So hopefully you can resonate to, or you can kind of see, okay, that's you watched before. And feel free to put any comments you observed or you experienced as a problem of networking. One typical thing is, even I would say I kind of divided the things to three stages. Before networking, in the networking, and after networking. So three stages. I'd like to see some interesting observation to share with you. So before network, in fact, many people, I would argue more than 50% of people, they don't like networking. They try to avoid it. So they won't even attend any networking events. So why they say that? Why? Because we mentioned the networking is so important, but why still so many people don't want to go to the networking events or networking sessions? I guess that's one thing is related to your self-image. A lot of times we talk to ourselves a lot, right? So one thing is there's I don't know where is that from, but people. Some people usually consider them I'm either introvert or extrovert. There are a lot of books talk about different personality, different types. So including me, I still consider myself, although I'm in the networking session a lot, but I still consider myself as kind of towards the introvert type. right? So I'm not the kind of like a extremely talky people can speak anything to anybody kind of things. So if on the left hand side is introvert, on the right hand side is extrovert, and people kind of like in this spectrum somewhere is your position. But I would argue it's not fixed. It depends on the context, it depends on the scenario, or depends on the goal, the objective. You kind of like move around. But you probably have some like inherited natural style for the either more towards the introvert or more towards the extrovert. But many people also say, okay, I'm shy. I don't like talk to strangers, or maybe also from our education. So that's part of the reason. Before they even go to the network, they have a lot of these talks. And then they say, okay, since I never like those kind of things, I will just don't go, right? So no networking at all. So that's very interesting. Okay, so that's one. So there's Jenny to say, okay, some people are so faked. Yeah, could be. We will touch on that one. So that's kind of a before networking. So if you don't go to any networking session, there's no networking at all. Of course, there's a digital networking. We talk about that later. All right, so let's say you go to a networking session, right? So it doesn't matter, it's a conference, an event, or like meetups, or your school gathering, the classmate gathering, or whatever scenarios there. Here are several interesting things I observed during that session, right? First of all, a lot of people are nervous, they're scared, or a little bit intimidated by the new environment or strange environment, or the environment they are not familiar with, especially in the conference, right? So yeah, so Jenny, that's exactly right. So you mentioned some people have fear of rejection. Part of it is that that's a reason. They feel so nervous. So when I organize the event, when I watch the people that sit in the audience, so I often notice the first row or second row are pretty much empty. And a lot of people are taking the last row, right? So, or the last couple of rows. And they leave the front rows like pretty much like a lot of like empty space there. And they getting the spots near the door or near the entrance. So that's one thing I found very interesting. And during the like a networking session or gathering, so a lot of people kind of sit behind or stand behind or kind of in some like a space not many people can notice. So I don't know why, but that's kind of interesting things I observe. And quite many people join those networking sessions. What they are looking for, they are actually the first thing they try to do is to try to find some people they know. Doesn't matter it's their classmate, the colleagues, or the friend. And oftentimes, if they find, okay, there are some people I know, I just go there to talk. And for the rest of the event, pretty much he or she just stick with that person. And so only talk to people you know. So that's another type I observed. And the other scenario is very interesting is I feel people are very busy at the networking session. What I mean very busy is not they are busy with talking people, they are busy with something with themselves. So for example, in the conference, I saw a lot of people kind of doing like a checking their email. So during the networking session, people are kind of watch their phone, or they have if they have a drink at the hand, like they have a coffee, they have a drink, they kind of like I pretend to drink. I could really like I want to drink a coffee, so drink a coffee and watch the phone like this. They feel it feels like they are very busy. Sometimes if there's a table, some people will check their emails like always on their laptop, and it appears like they're so busy. Even within the conference time, they are busy with the work, checking emails, other things. I don't know why. because you spend time outside and leave the office space. Of course, there's maybe some business reason you need to check the things constantly, but many people just use that to avoid the human interaction. They pretend they are busy because if you have nothing to do, it feels a little bit awkward. So you have to do something. So oftentimes the phone is your friend, then you can read that one, and you can do something, try to hide. So that's another thing I found it's really interesting. Okay. So let me see. Okay, so there's other comment about it's hard to direct the conversation where you both benefit. Yes, I will talk about that later. So there's another problem is you pretend to yourself or join a network session, right? So what do I mean is, okay, so there's 2 people or 3 people. You kind of in that group, usually only 2 people are talking, right? So they talk to each other. You're kind of standing in the middle, and you pretend you're listening to what they are talking about, but actually your mind is not there. And you maybe pretend you kind of like smile, then you follow their talk, but in essence, you don't actually care about what they're talking about. You're just thinking about when is my time to make some statement or jump in, or just to pretend I'm in the group, so I don't feel it's left out or it's so awkward. So that's something I feel it's a lot of people are doing like that. So usually you can see 3 people there, 2 people talk to each other, one person is standing in the middle apart and just listen. All right, so that's kind of interesting things to look at that. And yeah, so there's another things people comment out. I think online you also mentioned is you kind of have a little bit awkward to start the conversation. So let's say you start the conversation. So after 1 or 2 sentences, probably usually you start with the conversation. Many people are doing like, oh, what do you do? Right. So what do you do for a living? So you kind of know each other. Then after that, you have nothing to say. It's just like I cannot continue that conversation because I don't know that person, and it's really hard to I kind of like come up with my next sentence, okay, to continue that dialogue. And so it's kind of awkward. Then you try to find another excuse just to leave, right? So even though after you overcome a lot of self-talk to start opening your mouth, but after a short conversation, you feel like nothing to say. So that's another common problem I observed. Of course, in some networking session, people are really treated like a business card exchange, right? So people are kind of they just okay. Here's my card. Okay, connect me, talk to me, kind of like this. Like a quick, what do we call it? A speed networking or speed like a dating kind of things, right? So quickly to exchange something. And there's also our people in the networking setting, they always talk about themselves, right? So talk about whatever things. It really is, they give no chance for other people to participate. And especially for the things you want most. So for example, I saw some students also doing like that. Directly go to the speaker or go to people, oh, do you have a job available? I want to apply for a job. Right, so in a way, it's kind of like a little bit awkward. Says, okay, either you don't want to talk or you just want to talk about yourself. Right, so those are some common things I observed, and you feel free to type anything you observed or from your experience, the common scenarios about the networking. What do you see in the networking session? Okay, and a time, right? So it's it's also the time pressure, because usually you only have maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes networking sessions. And there are so many people you need to talk to, you want to talk to, but yeah, so under the pressure, you cannot kind of have enough time to talk, or you don't know how to talk, right? So those are common things. All right, so feel free to type any other comment. So let me share with you some of my, I don't call it insights, it's just the lessons I learned, and some of my like a suggestion for you to develop your network skills. Number one is, what is network really about? What is network really about? Talk to people, express yourself, or something else? You may have all kind of definitions. You can also check online what is networking. For me, I like to share my perspective. Networking is really about relationship building. To build a relationship with the people you may or may not know, and hopefully can follow up and further nurture that kind of relationship. And to get something will be win-win or benefits to both of you, right? So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what is networking really about. So why? But if that's the networking, but how can we do it? We mentioned there are so many problems. We mentioned there's all kind of scenarios. But what's the root cause of all those problems? I think one of the person leave a comment online is really great. Some people are fear of rejection, or people are like just want to talk, share their idea. So, in fact, okay. So Karen also mentioned that people are okay. So you mentioned about people are only talk to people they already know, and especially for technical people, how to introduce yourself to someone you don't know. All right. Okay. So it doesn't matter you like or don't like networking, or you consider yourself as introvert or extrovert, or you kind of how do you want to master some like secrets of networking? I would argue the number one problem I observe for most of people have regarding the networking is this: they pay too much attention to themselves. In a way, you focus too much on yourself. Many people don't like networking. The whole reason they don't like networking because they feel they don't want to they don't want to look bad. They feel a lot about rejection, right? So they don't want to make mistakes. They want to, they're afraid of other people laugh at them or ignore them or don't care about them. So if I don't involve with the networking at all, I don't have that kind of pain, right? So, and even during the conversation, right? So they're on the other side, many people just keep talking about themselves and talk about what they want, and also kind of directly to say, okay, can I get this? Can I get that? Can I whatever things? All those things related to your focus. Your focus is on yourself, which give you a lot of pressure, burden, or all kind of things make the networking is not natural, right? So that's kind of things I like to offer. My point of view is the secret of networking, in fact, is focus on others, focus on relationship building. Forget about yourself for a while. So here are two things I like to offer to you. You can consider. So you probably have your own styles. That's my way of doing things. The number one is be curious. Each person is different. when you come to any environment, you will observe all kind of styles, all kind of background, experience, skills. So many times I amazed about what kind of difference people have, right? So I would suggest you be curious. The curiosity is the number one to kind of help you to focus not only on like move the focus from yourself to others. So think about what can you learn from that person? What's interesting about that person, right? So many people say, okay, I don't know how to break the ice, open the conversation. Especially, I'm a techie person. I'm not like good at talking. How can I kind of open my mouth and start the conversation? I would say, try to find something you're interested about that person. It could be very small things. Women probably more sensitive, so they can find a lot of things like the clothing, the dressing, the style, all the small things. But you can start with anything in common. What kind of things in common? For example, you are in the same event, right? So instead of ask, okay, the typical boring question, the icebreaker question, what do you do? What else can you ask? So you can ask, what brings you to this event? Since you both are in this event, you probably have your reason, but what about the other person? What is his or her reason come to this event? That could be an easy thing, right? So that could be some like a good opening question. Another thing is you can curious about, okay, so if you're already in the middle of the event, you can ask that person, what do you like about this event? Right, so what do you think about this event? Actually, I don't like that question. What do you think about this event? Because that could be either negative or positive. So many people will say, oh, I don't like this event, or it's boring, it's waste my time, or I don't like that speaker. So there are a lot of negative things kind of coming out, possibly. So and once those negative things come out, you kind of affect everybody's kind of motion, things, right? So I'd like to suggest you spin that a little bit, pivot that a little bit, ask, what do you like best about this event? Stay with the positive side, because the positive things will motivate people, right? So just ask, what do you like best about this event? So they probably, although maybe in fact the whole event is really bad, but at least there are one or two things you probably like. Maybe the food is good, or maybe the location is good, or maybe okay, I like the background or the flag or something like that. So try to find something positive. So ask, what do you like best about this event or this gathering or the things, right? So start something common. And curious about it, to keep asking some questions. Instead of try to figure out, okay, what should I say? Just ask questions, right? To try to learn a little bit more about the person you're talking to. So that's number one, curiosity. And then number two is, before you even ask for anything, think about what kind of things I can give back to that person, or support that person, or something I can help with that person. Right? So sounds like a little bit kind of not that easy to understand, especially for students or the people like relatively junior. They think, okay, if they talk to a speaker, they say, okay, oh, he is like an industry leader or expert. I'm a student. What kind of things I can give back, or what kind of things I can help? So it sounds like impossible. But I would argue you will always have something to give back. So for example, there's a speaker just finished his talk. So he get off the stage. You come to that person. You can just share with that person, what do you think about his speech or her speech? You maybe just say, okay, oh, I really like the point you mentioned about what A or B or C. or I like the way you address address certain angle, share your perspective. Or you can ask, okay, you mentioned several things. For one thing, I don't quite get yet. Can you explain a little bit? So kind of give the feedback. The feedback, everybody has a feedback. So you can share your feedback, hopefully positive feedback at the beginning, because you don't want to just directly kind of denying the other people to say, okay, your speech is so bad, and I'm guaranteeing you will stop the conversation from there. So try to give some feedback and ask, kind of start the dialogue again. Of course, if you can help that person or during the conversation, then don't afraid to give that support or help. But what kind of things you can give back, or what kind of things you can help? It's actually back to the first point I raised. You need to be curious. You need to ask a question. You need to learn a little bit more about that person before you can find out what kind of things you can offer to that person. All right. We haven't talked anything about what can you get from the conversation yet. So we just mentioned what kind of things do you want to learn from that person? What kind of things you can give to that person? But don't worry, because we mentioned the focus of the networking is about relationship building. So you need to build that relationship first before you even ask for things you want. That will help to build a little bit longer term relationship, because not just one time you get to know that person, collect a business card, then that's it. All right. So those are the two secrets I share with you about the networking. The bottom line is try to shift the focus from yourself to other people. Be curious, be supportive. Ask questions, what kind of things you can learn from that person, and what kind of things you can give back to that person. All right, so that's kind of I won't call it a secret per se, but it's just the tips for the networking. All right. Okay, let me look at what people comment on that. Oleg comments, yes, open-ended questions are always preferable. So why do we need an open-ended question? If you ask a question like, are you from Toronto? That's not the open-ended question. So people can just reply, okay, yes or no. Then you don't have anything to talk about. Instead of you ask, okay, where are you from? So people say, okay, I'm from Toronto. Then you continue, oh, which part of Toronto? So at least you can continue that conversation. And you can get a little bit more information from that person rather than just a yes or no. Then you can speak on top of that information, right? So because let's say we have two people, they don't know each other. So a lot of times networking is about exchange information. But to exchange information, you have to share a little bit information at the beginning. So the more you know that person, the more information you can get, you have more ways to continue that conversation and to comment on top of what the other people to talk about. Right, so that's the reason why we need open-ended questions. Okay, yeah. So Sandeep mentioned people are afraid of their first impression to be good. They don't want to have bad impression. All those are related to what we talk about. We have the focus on ourselves. There's a basic hygiene you need to do, right? So when you're in the networking environment, especially for professional networking environment, you have to get a little bit prepared, right? So your dressing, your kind of whatever, I don't call it a style, but at least you don't, if that's the event is not that casual, you don't want to to be so awkward in that different, to make that so different, right? So you need to get a little bit prepared. But the bottom line is try to focus on others during the networking. That's the number one secret I can share with you. All right, so we talk about some principles. So exactly what can you do within the networking sessions? There's a process of networking, and from the beginning, middle part to finish. So I'd like to share with you a simple three-step networking process, because I'm a system guy, right? So I like to, okay, what's the step one, what's the step two, what's the step three, right? So those kind of things. So let me share with you a very simple three-step networking process. All right. Assume you want to do the networking, right? Number one, do the ice break. So break the ice. So you watch. You're in a networking session. You look at one person you want to talk to. You have to break the ice. You have to start the conversation, right? So if you don't even open your mouth or you make any gesture, there's no networking. So you have to do something to do that. So the common thing is you have to, actually, the good thing is smile, right? So smile to people, they kind of like, they will get a little bit taste of likeness, right? So smile and ask a question. What kind of question you can ask? We actually talk a little bit about that. The most common question is, what do you do? But that I don't actually like that question, really, because when you ask that question about what do you do, you know what's next. Because we talk about many people focus on themselves. When they learn about what the other people do, they immediately think about, so one thing they will start to say, okay, rank that person, right? So what they do compare with myself, okay, am I above or am I under? So kind of like this. They will do some inner kind of comparison. And another part is immediate to think about, oh, if this is a guy, I want to kind of get a lot of things from there. So, does he or she have value I want? So those kind of things is really focus on yourself, right? So I like to say, okay, for the icebreaker, the question, just start with anything in common. We can start with that common question. We mentioned that before in the event, like a conference or the meetup or the monthly event. You can just say, okay, so because you two are in the same event, you just say, what brings you to this event, or you just ask, how do you like this event, and or what kind of things you like best in this event. All right, so that's just a casual talk. So I don't think that's too difficult for the other person to answer. So then the next step two is be curious, pay attention. So this is the time. A lot of times when we talk about networking skills, really is about the listening skills. Now you need to really pay attention to what other people are talking about. So let's say, okay, what brings you to this event? That person said, okay, I want to learn something, right? So that actually gives you some information for the next step. So let's say, okay, I'm in the cybersecurity event. I want to learn something like how do I defend my network? All right. So you can ask some follow-up question. Oh, are you in the networking, like a network security domain? Or how big is your network? Or what kind of things in your network? So kind of like this follow-up question, but it's related to the things that person just talked about. It's not something in your mind you think you need to ask. It's really related to the information you just gathered from the other people. And to do that, you must practice your listening skill. Really put your focus on the other person and to listen carefully, what kind of things, what kind of message, and be curious about, ask a question, be curious about some information you gather. All right, so that's on number two. So it's like a back and forth, the ball, right? So you play like this for several times. But in the end, you don't have that long time for the networking. You may not have like 30 minutes to talk. Probably your conversation will finish within 5 minutes. In the end, you probably, because in that time, you may not have enough time to get some details about that person. So what you want to do, don't forget for the networking, is ask for connection and follow up. right? So if you really feel that person is somebody I want to learn more or connect with, or kind of want to put to my network as well, so just ask for connection. So the way to ask for the connection, yes, to ask for business card, that's one. But you can also say, okay, can I email you? Or nowadays, almost everybody on LinkedIn. So just say, okay, can I connect you on the LinkedIn? Or can I give you a phone call later or later on? So you can also say, okay, can we have a meet and have a coffee chat later? Something like that. But the bottom line is to ask for connection and ask for the permission for the follow up. All right, so that's the very simple 3-step. The first one, break the ice, ask something in common, something you're interested about that person. Second one is practice your listening skills and ask follow-up questions really related to the information you just learned. Then the third one is to ask for connection and follow-up. All right, so those are the 3 steps. Very simple, should be general enough to cover most of the scenarios and to see how it works. Okay, so we have 24 people online, so feel free to share your tips of networking. And so this LinkedIn Live really is about how do we kind of exchange information, and I want to make that is really interactive. And the last thing I actually want to share with you is networking skills. Why we say it's a skill. Skill is something, it's not something you kind of like inherit as a natural, right? So yeah, a lot of people maybe born with the networking skills, but I would argue as a skill, you can learn it. And as a skill, to be better at that, you have to practice. You have to practice a lot. Just like you drive a car, you have to practice the driving skills. Right? So for network, so you have to practice your network skills. And there's no end part. It's not like I'm done with the network learning, so that's it. I can do all the things. You have to continuously learn some new things from networking, right? And to make that happen, I would encourage you. So the thing is, you have to do more than you can be good at certain things. So hi, Ranjit. I just saw you on the online. So join some events, join some conference, really to practice your network skills. And for the things, you just learn a little bit about the tips I shared with you. So practice those things. It's easy to say, but it's a little bit harder when you put to the practice. So at the beginning, when you do that, probably you're not that skillful, that we make mistakes. No worries. But the key is repeat that, do a little bit more, right? So the more you practice the networking skills, the better you are. Just like any other language skills, the things you learn at the school, right? So with that, I actually encourage you to join some conference, join the industry events, the networking events, and maybe also some like a Toastmasters group, or like I don't know, in your community, in your school, or in your company, you have some social gatherings. I really encourage you to join that. And with the purpose to practice, don't think about too much about what can you gain from that, or what kind of things you want to grab from others. Just focus on hone your network skills, right? So that's kind of things I can suggest with you. All right, so I have talked about 40 minutes about this networking, but I would back to the point. Why we need networking skills? Really, because a lot of times the success is not about what you do, it's about who you know, right? So your network, your support will help you to achieve your goals, maybe faster, easier, and more efficient. So that's the reason you need a network skills. And in the corporate environment, you need that one to not only for yourself, but also for your team and for your department, or maybe for the whole company. Okay, so it doesn't matter it's the personal development, professional development, or your business development. Okay. Um, Speaking of the event, if you're interested, we have this event upcoming, which I share with you. So People in Cyber Conference, which is also the good things you can practice your networking skills. We will have about 300 people to join that session. So that will be good to learn, not only learn, but to get to know a lot of industry people. I just want to share with you a quick things here. Okay, so we are so the upcoming Saturday on Saturday, October 19th, so we have this People in Cyber Conference in RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, RBC Water Park Place Auditorium. So there will be about 300 people to participate. And if you're in the cyber technology, cyber risk, cyber security, or you're in the school want to finding the job, there's a lot of opportunity and people you can talk to and connect with. So that's the event. You can also practice your network skills. And I really encourage you to go and really to develop the things very important for your future. All right. Okay, that's pretty much what I have for today about the networking skills. And this is a part of our cyber career development talks, right? So I will give some in the future, under the Cyber Career Center, give some workshops. So really is also help you to in person to practice these things. For today's some tips, I just scratch the surface, give you some hints about some observation I have, and also some lessons I learned. Right. So hopefully in the near future we'll have more opportunity to interact with you and to really to see how can we develop some cyber career skills, really, especially related to soft skills like problem solving, quick learning, communication, networking. Right. Okay, cool. All right, so right now it's almost 1:50 and we have 33 people online. So for people just to join, my name is Brian. So thanks for joining. And today we're talk about networking sessions, networking skills. And if you didn't capture everything, don't worry. So I think the LinkedIn Live will be recorded, so you can always go back to watch the things I just mentioned. And hopefully in the near future, so we will have more chance to interact online. And you're most welcome to join my upcoming LinkedIn Live sessions. And also don't forget to join our People in Cyber Conference in RBC Water Park Place Auditorium on October 19, which is next Saturday. All right, so you have a wonderful long weekend. I will talk to you soon. All right, so for people online, thank you very much for joining. Yeah, so there's so many people. I will try to reply later. So, but so hopefully you will have a wonderful long weekend. I will talk to you soon. Okay, cool. Bye.